Hey everybody, I'm Siggy,
And I'm Louis.
and we're motorcycle gear experts here at Jafrum.
We're here today to talk to you about the difference between DOT, SNELL, and ECE helmet ratings. So, Siggy, why is there so much confusion surrounding helmet rating systems?
Well, when people go to buy a helmet, many people look at the stickers on the back and they have questions. This is natural. These questions arise because despite the need for an all-inclusive helmet safety standard, there are still numerous performance testing standards from different agencies. Some standards are issued by the government, whereas some of those same standards are issued by private organizations. While they all differ in many ways, they ultimately test the helmet's ability to absorb impact. But impact is not the only thing you need to worry about.
That's right, Siggy. There are also other important features that are not addressed by helmet standard systems, such as comfort, fitment, ventilation. And it's crucial to point out that no matter which standard a helmet meets, be it DOT, SNELL, or ECE, helmets have continually proven to be effective in reducing head injury in an accident. Novelty helmets, however, or non-safety tested helmets, are oftentimes worn for their lower profile look or even in protest of mandatory helmet use laws. Novelty helmets do not, however, meet any safety standards and cannot be expected to provide the same level of head protection. Now, Siggy, why don't we introduce them to the three helmet rating systems?
Okay, I sure will. There have been historically three standard applicable motorcycle helmet ratings. The first is the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard, or Department of Transportation, we know it as DOT. The second standard is issued by the SNELL Memorial Foundation. This is a private, nonprofit organization that issues its own motorcycle helmet standard. And the third, last but not least, is a standard that comes from United Nations Economic Commission for Europe and is most commonly used standard around the world or internationally. This is what we know as ECE. Let's start with the DOT, Louis.
Sure. See, the DOT standard was first issued in 1974 and has been updated numerous times since then. And the DOT rating is the mandatory U.S. government standard. All helmets must meet this in order to be used on public highways. This helmet standard is trust-based, meaning the helmet's manufacturer tests the helmets to be sure they meet the DOT standard, but there isn't a reporting requirement. So the government does perform a random test to make sure that the helmets are meeting the DOT standard. The helmets go through an impact attenuation test, a penetration test, and a retention system test. The impact attenuation test is when the helmet is put on basically a mannequin head and dropped onto a rounded anvil and then also a flat hard surface. The penetration test is when an object is dropped onto a stationary helmet. The retention system test measures the ability of the chin strap and D-rings to maintain its position under tension. If the helmets pass these tests, they are then labeled permanently and legibly. The label must be easily read without removing EPS or any other permanent part of the helmet and must have the manufacturer's name or ID, precise model designation, size, month and year of manufacture. On the outside, rear of the helmet, a DOT symbol label is required. This label must be in a contrasting color with the background. And that's pretty much the basics of DOT.
Right, and the SNELL standard, which is the second of the two U.S. standards, is issued by the SNELL Memorial Foundation, as I said before. This is a voluntary standard that manufacturers apply for and earn. Although both the DOT and SNELL test much of the same criteria, the SNELL certification is typically harder to receive. Both perform impact tests, but the difference is in the impact severity, the impact criteria, and the number of tests performed. One of the biggest differences between SNELL and DOT is how the helmets become certified. The SNELL certification occurs when the SNELL technicians in a SNELL lab test samples of the helmets that are submitted by the manufacturer. Also, SNELL regularly buys SNELL certified products that they've approved before, test them in their own lab to see if they still meet the SNELL standards that they held them to previously. That keeps the manufacturers honest. One of the negatives about SNELL is that they will not test a modular helmet.
That's right, Siggy, they won't. But ECE will. The UN Economic Commission for Europe, or ECE standard, is the mandatory standard in Europe, much like the US DOT standard is the mandatory in the US. Now, like SNELL, manufacturers in the US wanting an ECE rating must submit an application. One major difference between the European standard and the DOT is the ECE standard requires mandatory batch testing. Before the helmets can be released, that means the quality of the helmet is assured before they leave the factory, and not with random testing performed after thousands of defective helmets may have been delivered to dealers. Now, the ECE helmets are tested on peripheral vision, penetration resistance, much like DOT and SNELL, the effective of the retention system, the strength of the retention system, and also shock absorption. If the helmets pass, they are labeled permanently and prominently with the name of the manufacturer, contact information or web address of the manufacturer, model name, model number of the product, size, and last the manufacture date. Now, most viewers are probably wondering what the differences between ECE and SNELL are. You know, Siggy, one great way to illustrate the differences between the two is by taking a look at youth helmets.
That is very true, Louis. Snell believes that the thicker the EPS, the more protection the helmet will provide. Although this is good in theory, the thicker EPS liner makes the helmet heavier. ECE's theory is that the lighter the helmet, the less inertia is created during an impact, thus reducing head, neck, clavicle, and even back injuries. The ECE has more in common with the DOT standard than SNELL, and some argue the ECE rating is better than SNELL or DOT.
It's true. It's important to remember, though, the rating of a helmet is secondary to fit. If the helmet doesn't fit properly, it won't adequately protect you, regardless of the rating or who rated it.
That's true. And while we are gear experts, there is an abundance of information on this subject. We can't fit everything into this video today. If there's anything we have missed, or if you have any questions or just some comments, feel free to leave your comments right below. We would love to hear your feedback. We'd love to hear from our customers. Thank you for watching our video today.
And remember, at Jafrum, you do the riding, but let us go the extra mile.
Because we are trained professionals. So don't try this at home. Try it on your bike. I'm Siggy.
And I'm Louie.
And we'll see you next time.